Hi everyone, welcome back. The purpose of this little video is to review a food chain. Now, why a food chain? The food chain is our first example of a trophic structure that I introduced, I believe, in the last video. There's food chains, food webs, and biological pyramids. Now, I already filled in a lot of stuff because you probably learned about this in fourth grade and not a whole lot has changed. And I decided to focus on a lake ecosystem. So as you've probably learned somewhere along the line that plants, or in this case algae, are the foundation of any food chain and any ecosystem. So we have algae at the base of our food chain, and then who eats the algae? Well, we have little fish eating the algae. And in this example, I chose minnows to be the little fish. Then who eats the little fish? Well, bigger fish eat the little fish, right? And in this example, I used trout as an example of my bigger fish. And then who eats the bigger fish? Well, you could say an even bigger fish. But I chose a raptor. A raptor is a bird of prey, and an example I used for this food chain was an osprey, often called a water hawk. And so in our food chain, the osprey feeds on the trout. And I picked a raptor because we will be talking about raptors in the next unit. All right, so to review some basic vocabulary, the plants are called the producers of an ecosystem. And sometimes you'll even see them called the primary producers for reasons we'll describe later in the course. So the reason why plants are called the producers of the ecosystem is because they produce food for the whole ecosystem. If you go into the grocery store and buy produce, well, you are buying fresh fruits and vegetables. All right, your primary producers are eaten by the primary consumers. Then, of course, so in this case, our minnows were our primary consumers. The primary consumers, in turn, are eaten by the secondary consumers, and the secondary consumers are eaten by the, I ran out of room, the tertiary consumers. All right, and the food chain does not go usually past 3 or 4 trophic levels. All right, a little bit more vocabulary. If you have an animal who only feeds on plants, what do you call that animal? Well, those would be our herbivores. That's an H there. So the primary consumers are also known as herbivores. All right, animals that eat other animals are carnivores, or if they feed also on plants, they're omnivores. And finally, in this example, our tertiary consumer would be our top carnivore. All right, now an important thing to note about food chains is there is one level and one level alone where energy enters this ecosystem, and that's the level of the plants. So as you know, there is a sun, all right, and sunlight travels 93 million miles through empty space, and it enters the food chain only here, only at the level of the plants, the primary producers. There is no other level that energy can enter the ecosystem. So again, why do we eat food? We eat food for 2 reasons. We eat food to get energy, and we eat food to get more atoms of life, more chnops. So the algae, through the process of, I hope you know this is through photosynthesize, they trap energy for the whole ecosystem. So when the minnows eat the algae, so the arrows show the flow of energy or the flow of chemicals. When the minnows eat the algae, energy is transferred from the bodies of the algae to the bodies of the minnow. And likewise, when the trout eat the minnows, the energy, the chemical energy of the minnow is transferred to the chemical, is stored in the biomass of the trout. The chemical energy is stored there. All right, but as we know from physics, all right, there's no such thing as a 100% transfer of energy. So at every step of the way, some energy is lost as heat. So I'm not going to keep writing out the word heat. And as the minnow swims around, right, its body releases heat. So we talk about the flow of energy through an ecosystem. Okay, so again, energy in the form of visible light, which is a longer wavelength, energy only enters the ecosystem at the level of the producers. They trap the visible light through the process of photosynthesis, and then the energy travels up the food chain. So I have a little true-false question. It goes like this: true or false? Energy is being continually being recycled through an ecosystem. There is no need to input more energy in order to sustain an ecosystem. I will answer that again. I will ask that again. I want you to just really think about this and listen to it. True or false? Energy is continually being recycled through an ecosystem. There is no need to input more energy in order to sustain an ecosystem. Now what I want you to do is write your answer in the little comment box, and then I'm going to need a little bit more room to explain this, so I will clear off my whiteboard. And after you've entered your answer to that question, true or false, I will meet you in the next video. I'll see you then.